Kelley. You got room? What did everybody think about that chicken fried steak? Woo! I gotta say, I'm from Massachusetts. I had never known about chicken fried steaks before I came. And I've had some chicken fried steaks that I was like, I don't know at all. But that today was good. I want to say that's the first time I had a chicken fried steak that I was like, wow, I know what everybody's talking. So why don't we, if you guys don't mind, give it up for our Osage Casino and Resort. I also wanted to, because I might not have another chance up here on the stage for the rest of the day, but just really acknowledge how much work Osage News has put into this event, as in particular, editor Shannon Shaw-Duty. We've been working together on this for a long time, several months at least, and there's been a lot of barriers that have come up, but she really kept pushing it. We need this. Our community members, and that's just something that I have heard repeatedly over the last 2 days, is just how grateful and thankful our attendees are, and the comments online just for bringing something like this together. So even though everyone clapped when I said it, just one more time for Osage News. If you're a member of the Osage News staff, would you raise it up? Our freelancers also stand up, raise it up. To have a part in the amazing, incredible, community-led and focused work that we do. Our next session is a community leadership panel titled One Water, One Community, Building a Future We Can Trust. This panel brings together leaders from Osage Nation and local municipalities to discuss how we can work collaboratively to ensure clean and sustainable water access across Osage County. Please help me welcome our panelists. Osage Nation Principal Chief Geoffrey standing there. Osage Nation Congresswoman Mayor Whitehorn. Pawhuska Mayor Steve Tolson. And Barnsdall Mayor Johnny Kelley. You guys should moderating the panel is Osage News editor Shannon Shaw-Duty. This conversation aims to highlight intergovernmental partnerships, ongoing water projects, opportunities to strengthen stewardship, and whatever else comes up along the way. So please take it away, Shannon.
Just want to welcome everyone again, and I'm the editor of the Osage News. My name is Shannon Shaw-Duty, and I see a lot of interesting and wonderful and curious people sitting out in the audience, and we're all very concerned about our water situation here in our community. And I'm very thankful that these leaders, these community leaders, wanted to come join us today and answer your questions and speak to you all and give an update to our community about the situation. So briefly, I'd like for each of you to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves.
I'm Steve Tolson from Pawhuska. I'm the mayor of Pawhuska. Been mayor since May of this year. Been on the council for almost 6 years, and finally got a shot at mayor this last election. And one of the goals is to promote planning and working on infrastructure and trying to be proactive instead of reactive in the community.
I'm Mayor Johnny Kelley from Barnsdall. I'm a lifelong resident of Barnsdall. I've been there since 2019. Been there all my life. You know, I care about Barnsdall. I love it. It's my hometown, and been strongly tied with the Osage Nation my whole entire life through both sides of my family. I'm a member of the Cherokee Nation, so that's about it.
I'm Maria Whitehorn, and I serve on Osage Nation Congress. I was elected in 2012, was on for 8 years, and then had a 4-year break, and now I'm back on again. So I lived in Texas for a while, about 17 years, and went to my university, some of my college work down there, and it was in the field of geography with a water resources way to it. I learned a lot about water when I was there. I also learned that we were over the Edwards underground aquifer there, and there were water wars going on in Texas with industry, with municipalities. There wasn't enough to go around, and I could go on about that. But so my love and my desire for water spawned out of a university class that I took, and then I changed my major to that. I didn't finish that degree, but when I came back to the Osage with my family and grew my family up to the point where I decided I could do something with the nation, the passion for water had never left my heart. So when I first was elected, Chief Red Eagle was our chief at the time, and we had a very good conversation about water. And we started the Water Rights Task Force in 2012. And Chief Standing Bearer and I, he was a colleague Congress member at the time, and Minerals Council members Galen Crum and Andrew Yates were appointed to that task force. It was the Chief's task force, and also the Attorney General and one of his executive staff, Chief Red Eagle's executive staff. I'm telling you what, we did some heavy lifting on that Water Rights Task Force. We did a lot of good work. And so now that I'm back on, that was one of my desires, to work on our water and our natural resources. I talk about it when I campaign, but I'm going to tell you, when I get here, that's why I'm here. So I'm so glad, Shannon, that you've done this, and I'm going to commend you on how you have organized the days. I'm so glad that Mayor Reed got to talk before us, because there's a lot to say about that, so thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Osage News, Shannon. I'm Jeff Standing Bear. I'm finishing up my 12th, and probably, unless I live to 100. I will be doing this. I kind of lived to 100. I would be on a beach somewhere. But no, I'll finish up my 12th final year as Principal Chief of the Osage Nation. It's been my highlight of my career. And before that, I practiced law for 34 years. Graduated from University of Tulsa and my Juris Doctor degree, and where I studied primarily oil, gas, energy law, and the like. I represented a lot of these companies and stuff back in the day. I was assistant principal chief in 1990. Thought I'd try that out. Did that for 4 years and said, I'm never coming back and doing this again. So you guys, good luck. And then I'm a graduate. I know I'm in OSU country, but I graduate a bachelor's degree from the University of Oklahoma, Boomer Center, and I'm married to Julie Gray Standing Bear. She's Osage, and we have 4 children, 8 grandchildren. And we live on Julie's great-grandfather's original allotted land. And so I know at least our license tags are legal. If you want to talk about that stuff, we can.
So I want to set the stage. So each of these individuals, they play a vital role in shaping the future of our water here in this county. I would like for each of you to describe how the ongoing water issues have impacted your communities that you serve and you personally.
For Pawhuska, it's a day-to-day scenario. You never know when you wake up that morning what leaks you have, where the leaks are, where the water guy's going that day, and how bad is it gonna be? Is it affecting the whole downtown area? Is it affecting the school? Those type of deals. We have an aging infrastructure like the other communities in Osage County. It's 100 years old. It needs to be addressed. We've made a few impacts on it, but we've pretty much been proactive, not proactive, but reactive on the water leaks. And we're just at a point where we've got to find resources to move forward to protect our water, be able to provide good, clean drinking water to the community, and that the community has our trust in doing that. And that goes from possibly a water treatment facility to infrastructure lines, getting it from door to door.
In Barnsdall, our infrastructure's, most of it are a little over 100 years old. We face the same problems, I believe, as every other municipality in the area. It's a day-to-day battle. It's very expensive to buy the clamps and the supplies to fix the leaks. It's a huge problem. Rural America, the infrastructure everywhere, you know, like I said, I believe we all fight the same problem. The communities are drying up, the infrastructure is getting older, the number of people that live in these places is dwindling, and in turn the cities themselves dwindle, the businesses go away, the tax revenue leaves, you don't have the tax revenue to operate your city, and you know, it's something I believe we probably all lose a lot of sleep over. We've all been reactive for many years, and everybody is trying to be proactive that I've talked to. I spend a lot of time on the phone with the people from the Osage Nation and our state representatives and representatives at a federal level, and it's a huge problem, and I don't know all the answers. I know that I believe everybody needs to come together and try to come up with a solution for the problem, you know, especially here in the Osage Nation. It's near and dear to my heart, and it bothers me to see things going the way they're going. So anyways, that's kind of how it affects me, emotionally, personally, mentally, financially. It's a big deal.
So, as a Osage Congresswoman, my problems aren't the problems of a mayor that has the infrastructure to wake up and see about every day. And the community people aren't calling me and knocking on my door about that. But my Osage constituency is. When there's not water in town, when their water is not running out of the faucet, when their water's running out of the faucet brown, that becomes my problem. And all of our problem. I'm not saying it's a burden on me, but it's something that I have to look at for my community people, the people that live in Hominy, the people that live in the boundaries of the Osage Nation, of all of these aging water systems. So it affects me in a way that I love this, because it's my heart to do better. So one of the things that I can do, and how a reaction to not necessarily the water outage in Hominy, but from what I can see of our failing infrastructure, is to get a committee of Congress to look at these things. So we formed the Natural Resources Committee in April. We had never had one, but the Constitution gives the general authority over all natural resources in the nation to the legislative branch. And so it's kind of like, okay, let's do this. Let's form a committee. And that way we can look at the committee, we can look at the community problems in a larger way. We've met 3 times, I believe, so far. But after this, I'm hoping that all of my committee members will see that this is something we need to do. Part of our mandate in that committee is to form a water rights subcommittee. And I'd like to kind of form it after how Chief Regal did it in the beginning, and see if we can't get members from each branch of government, so we're talking about the same thing, and have these meetings and pull committee members in. But I think I'm off the question, but that's how I feel like that I can help the people of our communities. We can start a dialogue. We can start planning. We can look at strategic measures we can do as a community and as a nation, because we don't have to fix those water lines. Every one of our people that live in these boundaries of the Osage Nation is served by an outside water system, either a rural water district or a municipality or a well. And I believe the nation has a responsibility to make sure our people have clean water, clean and abundant, if we're not during a drought. Okay, thank you.
The task force that Congresswoman Whitehorn mentioned was very productive, and we had a lot of momentum going, so we led into the partnership with the United States Geological Survey and the Osage Congress and myself really put that to use. They had helicopters going through every inch of this, what's the reservation, county, however you want to call it, the Osage. And they had this big sonar apparatus underneath it, and it mapped out what Craig Walker showed you during his presentation, the status of the water up to certain depths anyway. So then we ended up in that book, the report, which really talks about who USGS thinks about who owns the water, who controls the water. So as we hired lawyers and we kept going over the years, we kept getting, and we switched law firms because we kept getting, which you usually get if you don't watch them, is the history of the Osage that you can pick up off the internet or somewhere. And so they send you, the lawyers, what they have done, and they've cut and pasted out of something else, and we're reading what we already knew. And so I'll get to the one point that where we've come to a halt, and that is the discussion of what is needed to prove the winner's doctrine here. And so several people have heard me say this for years. I'm of the opinion that the winner's doctrine can be proven for oil and gas because the purpose of the reservation was not only to allot the surface, but to reserve the entire mineral estate to the Osage tribe, now nation, with the beneficiaries, the sole beneficiaries being the head right owners. Unfortunately, some of them are not Osage, but nevertheless, that's the way it all rolled out. Now, when you look at it that reserved, then the hydrologists who are key to this, the engineers, have to tell us what is there, how much was used since 1906 forward. And we can never get those numbers. So we have some really good water engineers, Stetson Engineering, and they have been working with us about 10 years, but they're doing projects like the villages and doing the necessary engineering work on the smaller scale. We need them to come in and show us what are we talking about on winner's doctrine rights and other rights in this area. What are we talking about? What are we going to be fighting over? How much water is there? And then when you go to court or settlement, that'll determine that after like 10 years people get tired of this stuff. They usually settle after about, Professor, if he's still here, you stop bringing it up. It takes years to do those kinds of cases, but the cases that we've been working on were at the various villages here and there on Indian land. But we need a comprehensive general adjudication, as they call it, and the engineers is where it starts and ends, and that they have to prove all this up. And the lawyer's role should be just to introduce the evidence from these engineers into the record. Because I'm tired of reading about essays on Osages from law firms we're paying a fortune for, when I already knew this, and anybody in high school would know it. And you gotta watch them, right? Here we go against these lawyers. When we were fighting the first gaming cases and all that stuff, one of my clients hired a top firm in Tulsa on tax law. And in fact, this one guy, John Eagleton, was former general counsel for Southwest United States. Anyway, they were paid to read "Bury My Heart, a Wounded Knee." Now and these were honest lawyers, these guys. And if anybody remember that book, it was kind of popular in the 60s and 70s. And it's about, all the tragedies, the different, Wounded Knee and all that stuff. But we pay big money, and now this tribe I've seen pay big money too. But when you got, 12 members of the legislature and a chief, every one of them have their own ideas, which it should be, and every one of them have their own vote. Chief can't vote, but chief can veto, but everyone owns their vote. So we have to have a consensus. We had that consensus when we were working together to drive this thing forward on water. But in my view, from where I'm sitting, and I got a front row seat with all this stuff going on, the attorneys tried to guide it their way. And we didn't have anything like what's happening today, yesterday, which is the big difference. This is more amazing than you can know. I have a great interest in water. I spend a lot of time over there. Well, 3 trips that I know of, four trips to Arkansas, where church groups and other groups, and I've talked to groups like this with more. They are concerned about the White River watershed, and I'm talking to these different groups that are affiliated with the university and affiliated with the University of Arkansas, because water, the pore space issue is coming up, the data center, every issue, that's food sustainability, which is key. We have great greenhouses and et cetera, but water is key to what we're doing there. We have to have sustainability, so our Osage Congress, they were very generous at essentially subsidizing these programs. Well, we've got to stand on our own 2 feet. So, Myron, my relative there, wherever he went, he brought up, and Shannon, I'm gonna is there another question coming, or this is it? Oh my gosh, here you go.
Okay. So, I want to talk about collaboration, about how our leader, we all gotta live together. We all gotta live here. We're all using the same water, right? So, I want to ask you all how you all are currently working together. Is this through funding? Is it shared resources, emergency response coordination? Like, how do you all plan to work together?
In Pawhuska, before I got on the council, basically all I remember was collaboration for tribes on road programs in the area. And since I've been on the council, they've come in and assisted with the rehab of our reservoir system. I remember doing that. It was during COVID, and we had to go house to house doing surveys to get our number of Native Americans living in the community that we serviced. Now, that was a challenge to go knock on someone's door during COVID and get them to open the door. But we overcame that. We used the fire department to do that because people would open the door to the fire department. And that's how we got our numbers of our percentages. And we were able to use that with the Osage Nation and receive funding with Indian Health Services to help on the rehab of our reservoir system and all. We've also had funding for sewer line work upgrades that they helped us this last year to the tune of about $500,000. They've been a very good partner in that. We just got awarded a grant from another grant from Indian Health Services for a water supply line from our water treatment facility to our main reservoir, which is 2 million gallons. This is a big deal to us because our current system, the water is fed throughout the community and then pressured up to fill up the reservoir. So you have to maintain a high pressure on the lines to get it up in the reservoir, and then it feeds back into the system. Well, with this new line, we'll probably be able to reduce the pressure in the lines between 15 or 30 pounds per square inch, which will help cut down on water leaks because it'll be more of a gravity-fed system. But they've helped us secure funding in that. That'll be done in 2026 and we're also hoping to work with them in other areas, water treatment facility. They've been very open to work with us, and we're proud to be a member in the Osage Nation, the community, because we are a partnership, our community, and our survival is their survival. It's both ways. We have to be able to deliver quality water to the Osage members here and everyone in the community. And so I'm thankful for their help that they provide, and this symposium is a great opportunity to do that. And I think the Mayor of Hominy recommendation that we meet quarterly or semi-annual as a group and express our needs and collaborate on things is a good idea because all of us are in the same boat when it comes to this infrastructure problem we have. And by working together, we have more numbers where we can be heard in Washington or the state or our representatives, instead of just being an individual.
Kind of along the same lines as Steve said there, that the tribe has been more than gracious to the city of Barnsdall. We had several problems, and some of the Congress people, they reached out to me, and I reached out to them, and we visited about some of the things, and there were several grants that we had applied for as a municipality, and some of those grants they're matching grants, so you have to have the funds to match what they're willing to give you, and the tribe stepped right up and they allocated some money towards us. Our raw water line was kind of like the same thing. Steve, it went from the pump house at the Lake Waxoma, and it led to the water treatment plant in Barnsdall there, and it blows the fluid apart all the time. Last time it blew apart, I actually spent about $7,000 in my own money, took my own equipment, my own guys, and we fixed it. And anyways, that's a whole story about having to swim down the bottom of the creek and dig under another line in 40-degree weather. But anyways, and tie it to the bottom with winch line off of a pulling unit so it wouldn't float away after a flood. But anyways, the tribe has been so good to the city of Barnsdall and myself. And they saw and recognized, that we didn't have any money, what we were up against, and the state and federal agencies I worked with, and Representative Judge Strong, who's here, and some other people. They told me, what the tribe had done, and they took that back, and we worked with that together, and we all worked together, and we came up with solutions to several problems. We've still got several problems. I've got, on that a few questions down, I've got some numbers and some timelines on some projects that we've been able to do and complete, and we've been able to do that because of our help from the Osage Nation and some other state entities, as well as our county commissioner. He works side by side with me on several things, and I had some of the guys from the tribe that worked in departments, and they came down and offered to help and work side by side. So I'm very, very thankful for the Osage Nation, the people in it. I've been very, very blessed and fortunate and lucky as my time as a mayor. I've had a tremendous amount of support from the Osage Nation and my state and federal representatives in the Osage County, and I'm just very, very thankful for that. And because if it hadn't been for everybody working together, we couldn't do what we've done. We've got children that are Osage children. They go to school in them schools in Barnsdall. They live in those homes. We've got elderly people, and I feel like I owe it to those people and those children to make their life better, to make the infrastructure better. Very passionate about it. Like I said, I'm very thankful for this synopsis and all the work that y'all have put into it. It's something that's been needed for a long time, I feel like, and I just hope we can all continue to work together better and keep moving forward and make Osage County a better place to live for each and every individual.
So collaboration, I think, is going to come out of this meeting. It seems we heard from Mayor Reed today and from you guys that the nation and our communities have collaborated in the past, and mainly out of crisis or breakdown where services weren't being, for Hominy, where services weren't being able to be conveyed to the community. So I'm so happy that we are that kind of people here in Osage County, that we collaborate together. So, but I think out of this symposium that we should get to a point that we are collaborating with a forward view instead of, we should have done this and now we're in this situation. And how I see that is, like was said, maybe quarterly meetings where community and government leaders can come together specifically with water infrastructure, and we will know what your plan is. We will know what your needs are. We aren't, it seems like we're just flush with money, but sometimes the nation, our available appropriation amount can get down there where I'm not comfortable with that, because if the nation comes up with a crisis, then we need those funds as well. But if we can see in the future what we're looking at and maybe start talking about that, where we can start looking forward to fixing quadrants of infrastructure in communities, helping with that. Because I know that you guys don't want to be dependent on us, but the truth is our small communities work on their tax base, and if there's no economic development, no companies there, their tax revenue is, nothing. So, those conversations need to happen, because our Osage people live in these communities, and that's how we can serve them as well. So I'm all about collaboration.
And we're at the point now where we are hearing from staff and constituents, don't forget us. And so the three just come to mind that are up on the radar is, I'd like to start where I live. we've been without power. Sometimes we have no power, but we have, rural life, right? So it's a trade-off. So we've gone a month once without any water because that big ice storm come through one winter about 4 years ago. And it's not unusual for all of us on the line to be without water 2-3 days. We have a lot of Osages on that line, a lot of people. There's like 54 meters up to a certain point that I know of. And then of those, we have Osages, little kids, we have elderly folks, Osages, and the water quality, you don't want to drink it. I've had it tested at Oklahoma State University, and you don't want to drink it. So we do a lot of, I go to the harps down here with all my water, pushing it through the line, and I can't stand it. One of those clerks go, "You thirsty? Need some water?" Yeah, I'm living it. So that's a project, and we've tried to work with the city of Rural Water District 21, but as Craig Walker will tell you, it's an impasse, and I think it's I don't know what we can do to get some of Rural Water District 21's people to fully cooperate, because the cities mentioned linking up, and they had an engineer look at it, a former city attorney look at it, about linking up our systems. We get a new system, and there's a lot of good engineering options, but we just can't cross that bridge with Rural Water District 21 in the city to make things happen. But the engineering's pretty well done. So the other ones I'm hearing about is the lagoon over there near the casino. I guess there's some issues there we got to work on, Steve. And then I'm being told that on 15th Street, there's the pipe goes right down the middle of the road from decades ago, and that needs to be fixed. And so we got people lining up already saying, "Don't forget this, don't forget that," and as they should. But we're working on what we're working on, and there's a lot of work to be done.
I think that's a good place to go into. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Legislative priorities. This question is for Congresswoman Whitehorn. So what policies or appropriations within the Congress are focused on protecting water quality, improving infrastructure? How do they align with what the cities are trying to do? What is on your priority list? What are you looking toward?
So I looked at the question. Thank you for sending them to us early. I hear you guys say that we don't have the water code, we don't have the environmental code, and maybe we do need more. And I just need somebody to turn my head to that and show me what it is. But I believe it was your bill that we passed. Congress passed the Natural Resource and National Environment and Resource Act. Natural Resource Act. Right, the Resource Act. Thank you. We passed that years ago when you were still a Congress member. And in the good old days, right. And I just want to read, I know people don't like to be read to, but I just want to read what it says here, because I'm thinking we have everything we need as far as the ability to regulate rules and regulations that follow along in this code, because it says the Environment and Natural Resources Department of the Osage Nation is hereby granted authority to draft, promulgate, and implement such regulations as the ENR Department may deem necessary to promote sustainable management practices and regulate the use and development of the natural resources of the Osage Nation, or take other action affecting the waters of the Osage Nation for the benefit of the Osage people, while continuing to recognize the Osage Minerals Council's administrative and rulemaking authority over the oil, gas, coal, and other minerals pursuant to Article 15. So it says that they may promulgate all the rules in that department, and they shall not be final until approved by a resolution of the Osage Nation Congress. In my reading and in my thought, I thought we were good on environmental regulations concerning water, concerning all of our natural resources. We have a department that has been authorized by Osage law, which the Congress is authorized by the Constitution to write this law, for them to promulgate those rules. And so, if we need to talk with ENR about the directions that we see that these regulations need to go, that would fall under this code, then let's have those conversations. But I'm not seeing, just me, and I know a lot, but I'm not an expert. I'm not seeing other code that is necessary right now at this time, and I'm more than willing to look at it. While I'm on the legislative portion, I put together, just as briefly, it was a really quick study that I did. And since 2014, the Osage Nation has appropriated $769,187, over $13.7 million toward water projects specifically. And that's just the legislation I could find that the cream was at the crop that had water in it. But a lot of our legislative bills that we appropriate money for other infrastructure or for administrative costs to the Attorney General, for attorneys to work on water issues, is buried in larger appropriation bills. So that's just what I could find in a couple of hours of research. So the Osage Nation is stepping out. $13 million in the past 12 years is about $1 million a year if you average that out. Probably not enough, but I think it's a good start. So, legislative priorities, it's my priority now as a legislator and Congress to kick off our Environment and Natural Resources Committee and do this kind of work and reach out to our communities. I think we can do that from that place. So I think that's all I really wanted to say on this. We have actively looked at these things, but I would like to be proactive and have a list and prioritize and see where we need to move forward. And I will say that our community of Hominy has really received the least amount of dollars by way far than any other community. And I could kick myself right now because I own property up on the lake. I know what that spillway has looked like for years. And I'm so mad at myself that I didn't have the presence of mind to come to the nation and say, hey, help this community fix this before there's a disaster here. And I didn't do that, and I have to apologize to the constituents of my constituents from Hominy and to the people that live there, because I knew that spillway looked horrible. I didn't know any engineering about it, but I knew, just with my eyes, I saw that was a wreck. So, but we've only had like not even that many. Hominy's only had probably about $750,000. So I had to say that because I like my community.
This question is for city leadership. Mayors Tolson and Kelley, what projects or improvements are underway or in the planning stage in Pawhuska and Barnsdall to strengthen our community water?
As I mentioned a little bit ago, we've got the water line from the water treatment plant to the reservoir that is scheduled for start of construction in March 2026. And that's the main one we have in place right now. We are working to address other areas. Our main goal was to get water to the reservoir, and then from the reservoir start working down the hill along the main trunk lines of the town and addressing the supply lines for the community at that point.
Hope you got a lot of time. We've done quite a bit. When I took the mayor job, it was due to the fact that, like I said, I love my community, and I had several elders of the community that were there for me when I was a young man, and there were times we would go weeks at a time without water. You couldn't wash your clothes in the water, let alone drink it. It was brown, and it was terrible. And I kind of went back and forth with the city leaders at that time about it, and I had a lot of people coming to me, I guess due to the fact that I've always invested in everything I've ever had in the city of Barnsdall. Like I said, I spent a terrible amount of time with the Red Eagle family growing up, and Ed Sr. told me more than once that you have to love the land and the water and all that stuff, and they'd love you back and take care of you, and I've never forgot that. So I ran for mayor, but anyways, became mayor in 2019. 11/7/22, we installed new meters, which that was a whole fiasco due to the fact that the company we were using, they actually stole some of our meters, and I called them out on it and got into it with them, and we withheld their last payment, and they went bankrupt. And anyways, we got that about all straightened out and ironed out. And, so we replaced those meters in 11/7/22 at a cost of $391,486.15. We did the raw water line. The engineering started in April of 22. It was finished 12/8/23. That was $638,238.74. Both those projects were funded by the Osage Nation. So, the first thing I did was in 9/18/2020, when I became mayor, I went out to the water plant, and it was a wreck, to say the least. It was a terrible mess. Had several battles out there, ended up changing staff. We only had one water filter running at the time. All the doors were open on the SCADA system, which is all the electrical panels with all the contactors and all the controls. They'd robbed all the contactors and stuff out of several panels, and we were kind of at a point, if we'd had one more failure, we would have been out without water again. There was no median in the filters to speak of. I measured that, and it was way substandard. We had our pumps that ship water to town. There's 3 of those, and 2 of them were in pieces on the ground. There's only one of them still functional. So we were one disaster away from not being able to ship water. So in, like I said, in 20, we replaced all the medias in the filters. We borrowed the money for that. We paid $401.68 a month on that, and I think it pays off in like 29. And then also, the other part of this still is your sewer systems in a municipality. You got your lift stations, and they're supposed to have backup pumps in them. So I got with the guys and went out and started. I'm learning about this stuff because I'm a rancher. I worked in the oil field, and I'm a cowman and a firefighter, and I wasn't a water guy. I also had to learn about all this stuff, and come to find out, all the pumps were burned up in a bunch of the lift stations. Other than we had one pump, and anyways, we were on the brink of disaster there. So we put new pumps in there. We got an INCOG and a REAP grant in 3/23 of 2020. Those are $15,850 a piece. And then also in 22. We replaced all those actuators and stuff in the SCADA system in the water plant itself at a cost of $68,719.82. So as you can see, this stuff is not cheap. It's very expensive, and it's very expensive. I'm proud to say that also when I became mayor, I went through all the loans that the city had, and in 1992, they finished that water plant that's there currently, and they were paying a really high interest on that loan. So I did some checking and went to the bank and was able to negotiate the interest down quite a bit. And we make the last payment on that, I believe. When is it anyways? 12/1, we make our last payment on that. It's $6,744 a month. So that's been a struggle. We lost, a bunch of our. It's no secret we've been through several tornadoes and stuff, and we've lost a substantial amount of revenue, which affects our schools and everything else. I won't get off on all that, but we thought about refinancing it, going quite a lot longer and dropping our payment way down. But we decided that I thought it'd be better to tighten our belts up, and my council members agreed, and we decided to push on through and try to get this paid off and get it out of our hair so we could move on to something else. So we've done that, and anyways, the tribe, I believe it was when they were giving all the incog money, those when you were helping the cities in 21 or 2. But anyways, that we were awarded, we needed an ambulance and stuff, but we asked for water money to work on our infrastructure. And we had a lot of plans to work on our infrastructure, but in I think it was May of 22nd or 26th of 2021, our dam, we lost our spillway. We had a blowout there, so we've been fighting that. That's been a whole mess, but so I've been hanging on to that money, a lot of that money that you all gave us, because I got to make sure that I've got the money to do this project, which is, and that's a whole nother deal. You give us $3 million, and we have $1,577,832 left that we're hanging on to, so we can try to get this dam fixed. But anyways, that's a whole nother deal. It's there's so many rules and regulations that you have to adhere to do any of this work that I didn't have any idea of, and nobody has any idea of until you go through it. I'm not very smart, but I've become well versed on this stuff. I've had to, and I'm just going to give you a little, it's not really a fun fact, but some facts. So the dam busted in 2021, June the 3rd, we had engineers and stuff out to try to figure out how to fix our spillway, because we were having to live out there on that thing and keep it pumped down with pumps and everything, so we didn't lose the lake completely, because that's our drinking water, and that's a good lake. It's spring fed. It's never run dry. I got in a fist fight on the top of that dam there one night with a great big guy from an entity I won't talk about, because he was going to cut the spillway and drain that lake, and I explained to him he was not, and he explained to me that he was somebody and I was nobody, which I know that I'm nobody, but he was not going to cut the dam on that lake, because with the citizens of Barnsdall, as well as our rural customers, it served around 5,000 people, and I said those people are going to be without water, and he didn't care. But anyways, he didn't cut it. So, but in June 3rd of 2021, when we started this project, it was estimated we could fix it for $2.58 million. And we were all excited and kind of had figured out, and ORWA, they'd come down and work with us quite a bit. Representative Strong, who's here today, he spent a substantial amount of time with me, and I've been, like I said, I have been very fortunate. The government officials, the Osage Nation, they have all been very receptive. ORWA, I bumped head with ORWB, and those are two separate entities, and that's important for people to know. There's ORWA, which tries to work hand in hand with the tribe and with the cities and municipalities, and make things happen and do positive things. And anyways, we got to be careful what you say, but anyways, they're great. but there's also all these rules and regulations that you have to adhere to if you want to get the grant money to fix these problems. And we've been fighting this problem for a long time now, you know, and we did get a siphon in place for the air, and so we're able to control it somewhat that way. We just got done going through the wettest summer, I believe, in history, and we're able to control it. We had a blowout right before that, and another. I can't help it. I got to keep records. I got to know what I'm doing. But the last patch we put in the hole there's 2,099,660 pounds of rock we put in that hole, and so you know I was right there, and there was people from the tribe there that came there. They were with me. They checked on me, and our county commissioner was there with me and brought his equipment. I mean, I've been fortunate, but so I got this all done in 6/3. We thought we were going to fix this thing pretty quick. Well, I was informed that it didn't meet certain standards that I had to meet for it to be fixed. So they re-engineered the thing and did it. So in 2022 on 6/18, just a little over a year later, another engineering deal came back at $3.51 million. Well, thought maybe we were going to get something done then, and guess what? They shot me down again after they told us what to do and didn't like it. So then in 2023, on May 23rd, it was our third deal, and they came back at $5.8 million. And I thought, well, maybe this is finally it. I was able to, we were applying through grants through ORWB and ORWA and every other, you know, INCOG, Indian Health Service, everything we could to get this done. And we secured the funds, and once again, they shot me down. So then we'll go to May the 7th, 2025, and they go to $6.82 million. Well, then they shot me down again. So it's like they keep moving the finish line for me each time. So I kind of threw a fit and acted unprofessional, but anyways, so on May the 28th of 2025, they came back with another deal, and it said it was going to be around $8 million. So that they finally approved that deal. But anyways, so I had my pre-bid meeting a little over a month ago. Had over 20 contractors there for the meeting, and went through all that. Went out did an on-site visit, and over half of them took me to the side, shook my hand, told me, said, we appreciate you, but we're not going to bid on this because there's no way we can do it for the money you have. So that was another kick in the teeth. So come to bid opening day, and I received 2 bids, and I don't know if it's legal for me to say what they are or not, but anyways, I didn't have enough money. So anyways, so that's kind of as a city leader, you know, it is you have to be, and I'm very passionate about water myself. Like I said, I was very fortunate as a child. I'm talking as a 6, 7, 8 year, 9-year-old kid running around with Ed Riddigle Sr. and him pointing at this guy with his cane and stuff and tell you to love the land, it'll love you back. Take care of the land. Take care of the land. And I've always stood on that. I believe I still love land. I have some. I think it owns me, but anyways, I do. I love the land and I love the water. I mean, I do, and it's important. It's water's life. Period. I could talk about it all day, but anyways, so that's several of the projects we've done. We've done a bunch more. We've got a lot of, like the mayor from Homley was talking about, we've got a lot of water lines and there's clamps all the way down them. And we've actually got some money, because there's money earmarked in that you get as a municipality that you take in on what little use tax and stuff you get, and you can only use it for certain things that it's appropriated for. And we've got a little money to fix some roads. But these water lines are under these roads. And I've got people mad at me over it, but I can't waste money. I just can't. If you build roads over those bad water lines, they bust and you just tear them right back up. So we fought that battle, and also a little piece of information. I'll probably be unpopular for this with someone, I'm sure, but if you need to replace a lot of water lines, really you need to repair that line. Because if you replace it, you have to have an engineer. So, fun fact. But anyways, that's a little bit of what we've done. We've done a lot. We try to do what we can, and I just want to end that. I don't have the words to tell the Osage Nation and stuff how much I appreciate you and what you've done for us and how you've worked with us. And before I forget, thank you, Shannon, and Osage News and all y'all. It's the collaboration, I think, is a wonderful thing, and we're all here when we live together and get along. And I believe we owe it to our elders, and our young people to make it as good as we can for them. And there's that old saying, leave it better than you found it. So that's what we try to do.
It's rare to have all these leaders together, so I would like to give the audience a chance to ask some questions of them. And Brittany's going to come around with the microphone.
Thanks so much for this panel. This is for the Mayor of Barnsdall. You said you spent $7,000 of your own money fixing a problem. Can you that sounds just insane. Can you explain a little bit about what happened? And, that just sounds crazy that you have to fork over your own money to fix a problem that is a citywide problem.
Well, the raw water line, and I think every town, just like Colonies and just like their raw water line and stuff, they're all just old. But anyways, so our raw water line, it ruptured quite often. We were used to it. And it's several miles, across there, so you just take off walking, whether it's raining, snowing, whatever, and my guys that I always try to say I work with people. They don't work for me because I believe in working with people to make things better. And anyways, we couldn't find where the line was busted. We weren't receiving any water into the water plant, and we were pumping, and our flow gauges and everything where water was leaving, but we couldn't find it. And it had a big rain, and it was flooding. And it was cold and nasty, and we hunted for days in the town. We ran out of water, and we were all scratching our head. Well, the water line runs through a creek, dog thresher, and we were walking back through there again one day, and just so happened we saw the bowling in the middle of Dog Thresher Creek. So the line had ruptured in the middle of the creek. So I had them shut the pumps down. I called them, they shut the pumps down, and sure enough, and quit running. So it was ruptured in the middle of the creek. So I've been in excavation. I've done that my whole life. I took care of the rural water district for years around there, did the leaks and the taps and stuff. And anyways, I had excavators and stuff. And so, at first we're all scratching our heads trying to figure out what to do, and we realize it's got to be fixed. And the creek's still running a little bit. We're not going to be able to do nothing. It's down in the bottom. So we measured it across there, and I believe it was around 600 feet. And I believe the raw water line is 8 or 10 inch. And so we measured it. And I went to calling around. The city didn't even have the money to buy the pipe to replace it, but we got Chlormaine to work with us. So we got the pipe, and I hooked one of my feed trucks onto the trailer. I called my boys, my son-in-law, and some of my hired guys, and I sent them to get the pipe and stuff, and to get a poly welding machine to weld the pipe together. And you have to have a big one for that. They rented this one over there. So they went over there and got it, and we got everything set up. We took my welding truck over there and set it up because you had to have power to run the poly welding machine. And we took my side by side over there. We got my son-in-law side by side and took over there, and we began to weld this 600-foot jumper together. And we welded on it like 22 hours straight, and you know, you have to put your transitions on the end because the pipe in the ground's steel, and you're welding a poly pipe jumper together. And that morning we got the city backhoe out there and got it buried in the bottom. I took my track hoe and came across from the west side, and we dug it up on top so we could, you know, find a place to splice into it, and started digging down the side of the hill to the creek bank, and got it dug up, you know, and was going to try to dig into the creek bank where it went down in the creek so that we could, you know, bury it so it wouldn't float off, and slid my excavator off in the creek. And I called my brother at there, well, my cousin, I called my brother, Joe Kelley, a lot of people know who he was, and we was in the oil field business, and he had a bunch of winch line off of a pulling unit, and he brought it out to me, and we tied it off to a tree with some cable locks, and I was able to reach up and drag myself out of the creek. And then I talked to Anthony Hudson at the time, or Anthony Hudson, he wasn't the county commissioner, he just worked for him at the time, and Anthony said he could come help me the next day. So in the meantime, Jim Burden brought their dozer out there, and he got stuck. And then the plant brought their backhoe out there, and they got stuck. So the next day, so we went ahead and we tied took a chain and tied the end of it was dark by then, we tied the end of the jumper to the roll cage and lined side by side. And the other end, after we had to cover the ends, you know, it's you got to keep those ends covered so you don't contaminate it. We tied it to the front bumper, my son-in-law side by side, and we take off down in here 3 miles in the middle of nowhere. And I sent out all kinds of pictures. And we got to the creek bank, and I didn't see it was coming a lot quicker than I thought. And I was on the phone with him and told him to whoa and slam the brakes on. And cracked my elbow, mashed it in between the roll bar and the pipe end. But anyway, so we got the jumper down there, and I had my track hoe on the other side, and we took a fishing pole with a big sinker on it, threw it across, tied on a piece of rope, reeled it across, tied cable to the rope and reeled it across, and then pulled the jumper across, and began to make the tie-in on top, you know, and where we was going to tie in, dug a bell hole. And anyway, we were trying to get this. I couldn't get that. I couldn't get the sides of the hill dug in because, you know, it kept sliding off. So I got in the creek, and a couple of my guys got in with it for a while, and ended up digging underneath the old pipe with my hands, and we run the winch line underneath it, and up over the top of the other one, and then I dug again over here, and we barber pole wrapped it all the way across the creek, and took it up the hill, and we cable locked it to one side and then pulled it tight so it sucked it down to the bottom, and cable locked it back to this side. It's still there, and we've got our new lines in place now, thank gosh. But yeah, I mean, that's and there wasn't nothing that, I mean, I didn't have any choice. I'm responsible. I signed up for that job, and I just anyways, I just did what I had to do to get the people water because it's my job.
Yeah.
I'll say this about John, I talked to him real good ago. You need to understand, he gets paid $158 a month for being mayor of Barnsdall. And he does all this work. And yes, and I've got a lot, I've told him before, I've told everybody, I've got a lot of respect for him, because he's been through a lot in Barnsdall. You know, I've done things in Pawhuska. I've got a little Kubota tractor. I've moved brush out of the way, but none. If I had a backhoe, I'd be like him, but I don't. He's really done great work.
Are there any more questions? That's not
If you don't mind, I'd like to reference my question to Representative Strong, and I'm sorry I'm picking on you. It seems that one of the major barriers is monetary funding. Do you know, or would you support efforts in considering there's so many the infrastructure is failing in so many communities within this area of the reservation, would you support or would you advocate for infrastructure funding for our communities?
Yes. Without a lie.
And what would that look like?
You know, I'll say first, we are blessed in the area that we are in. This is some of the most beautiful country in the world. I've traveled all over the U.S. and green country's as good as it gets as far as I'm concerned. A lot of that is the pooled and surface water that we have. You know, we have ample rivers and creeks, and how we take care of it is very important. Infrastructure is one of our greatest issues. I've worked with Johnny as much as possible. Within District 10, well, there are 940 rural water districts in the state of Oklahoma, and they're all crumbling. I'm going to say that right now. We found out, especially when the marijuana grows started pulling a lot of water off, all over the state, they started figuring out we can't handle another 20,000, 30,000, 40 gallons of water a day, especially when it goes hard and goes, you know, those pipes just can't handle the flex. The infrastructure, the pumps, the valves, the tanks, everything. Like Johnny gets down there and figures out we don't hardly have any filters running. As far as infrastructure, I think the chief and I have worked on projects. What do? Do we build dams? You know, when we talk about Bartlesville water, do we limit the amount of water that we use? Do we start looking at keeping more going to the community and the households versus industry? Well, if we don't have industry, we won't have those households. They'll dry up and go away as well. I would love to say that we have an answer somewhere that does it. Is it conservation? Is it capturing more water before it goes downstream? Is it limiting? In western Oklahoma, we're looking at when they do pull out of the Ogallala Aquifer, do we tell those farmers you're going to have to start metering and reporting what you use? As far as support goes for those, last year I think we all chased, the state saw a one-time boom in dollars that come in from ARPA dollars. We had $1.3 billion that came through infrastructure, and I sat on that committee, and I think everybody got tired of me saying day after day after day, rural water, rural water, rural water. My grandpa always says they had a well and they could go through a bucket a day except on wash day. Well, they went through 4 buckets, and 2 of those buckets they had to use extra because he splashed so much out of the tub when they were taking baths. And that was it. Now you look at washing machines running, dishwashers running, watering your lawns, which people didn't do. When Bartlesville first got what they called community water system, everybody had wells. The water was 12, 15 foot down. They had community wells. The biggest problem they had was that nobody wanted to get on the utility water system. I don't want you putting chemicals in my water, and I'm not going to drink it. Was one of the things in 1912, whatever, was getting people actually to get on and use it. Now it's a town of 37,000 people, and the chief and I have sat in meetings over in Bartlesville and said, what are we going to do now when Beulah and Copan dry up in the drought? But it's one of those problems. When I came into office in 2018, I guess I won. We went the yarn running. In 2019, we started. Rural water infrastructure was a $16 billion problem in the state of Oklahoma, delivering clean water to homes. It's now about a $26 billion problem because of the fact that it's gone to crumble. It's continued to crumble. And so where do we get that? The state of Oklahoma only runs on $12 billion a year. So go ahead.
So are elected state representatives, are they having conversations with Kevin Stitt as he continues to push these data centers with Google now in these 2, at Council Hill? Are you guys having conversations with him saying, hey, we're in a drought and you are just driving home this economic development for these data centers with no feasibility studies whatsoever?
We have that conversation every single day. It starts in the morning and it goes late into the evening as far as what's going to go in there. One of the things I'll say that I'm kind of proud of is, we just got Blue Whale, a battery recycling plant in Bartlesville. It is considered a tech company. It's a recycling thing. It's a recapture of resources versus mining for resources. But they are a dry process. And one of the great things is they're already set up to grow 4 times outside of their bathrooms and wash and cleaning the floors and doing things like that, they're a dry process. It's a great industry to have come into here. It's great jobs, high paying jobs, low impact on the environment. When we look at the data centers, we have to draw a line between what are the battery centers, the data centers, the things that use all that water and just kick it back out. Some industries use water and they return it right back to the system, which is fine. They return better water than they took out of the system. Some use it and it goes away. We don't like those. And so it's one of the things I just said yesterday. Someone asked me, he said, well, you need to do something about it. What are you doing? I said, I'm the only one in this room that's voted against them so far. So, yes, we have that conversation every day.
Blue well battery recycling plant, not the blue well that sits on the pond. It confuses a lot of people. I just thought it was something on a pond. It is, but it's different. Yeah.
This question is for Legislator Maria Whitehorn. It was great to hear between you and Chief Standing Bear about the Resource Act. And I just wanted to draw attention to Osage Nation Code, that is osage.nation.codes/ONC. Title 28, Water and Water Rights Reserved. If you click on it, it'll just say Title 28, Water and Water Rights bracket reserved, and it'll be crossed out. And that's what we were wondering if it appears to be Water and Water Rights Code, which is in fact unpublished, reserved, and unknown. Thank you. Do you have any comments or context? Because I appreciate your comment that in fact we may not need any more water code, but apparently, and from just looking at it, it is always confusing to me to completely understand your stance.
Thank you for the question. I could speculate on that, but golly, I have the drafter sitting right here beside me. But I'm going to speculate first, and you tell me if I'm speculating correctly on our law. I believe that at the time that it was drafted, the Water Rights Task Force was in commission, and we were directly headed toward trying to adjudicate a water right between the state of Oklahoma and the Osage Nation. And to me, that portion would have been saved for when we knew what that water right was. That's my guess, but do you want to speak to that?
Okay, when that was written, there were, and still are, a lot of questions. So the way that law is designed is to allow the Natural Resource Department to write covers a lot that instead of in law, let them do it with rules and regulations, and which are a lot more flexible because rules and regulations are not law. So, but it's a guide for bureaucrats to follow the law, and all of us. So we had to find some way to get moving, because at the time, the state, and they still are, was having seminars. I think you're going to one of them on the state's view of water, kind of like this, next month. So what we did is work with Jan Heyman, Director of Department of Natural Resource, DNR, and her team. And then we said, okay, we worked with Janie Hibb over there at University of Arkansas on some code stuff. And then we went ahead and I said, well, this is only good if we do something with it. Otherwise, it's just more paper. So I'm always, asking people, what are we going to do with this? What's the point of it? What's the use of it? So, well, the way this is written, DNR, Jan Haynes' crew can drill a water well, and we need to get permitted. So they issued permit number 1, water well for Osage Nation, and it was down in Skytooth. We just finished up that Skytooth Casino a couple of years before, but their Skytooth Casino, if you look at it right on the west side, there's some land up there. So we went over there and I said to everybody that was involved, they said that more and more people got involved. So we were there and we had permit number 1, and we had a drilling company and water well. We drilled a water well to, they could use it for different purposes. And then the Osage News, of course, it was a nice picture and all that. Well, some assistant attorney general of Oklahoma City saw it, and I got this certified mail about a week later from the Oklahoma Water Resource Board telling us to cease and desist, like some big order. And it was, it was signed by their chairman, Ford Drummond. Okay, didn't like the idea. Ford's a nice guy, but he didn't like the idea of us using the water like it's ours. That's the whole point there. Ford, it is ours. So it started that. Next thing you know, we're having meetings coming up with remember the AG, Oklahoma AG, was sending people up. And so they had to calm things down because I told them what we were going to do next, which was, total chaos. That's the way you win cases. You walk in a room like this and destroy half of it, and the rest is in total chaos, and you rebuild it in your way, right? No? Okay. Anyway, you want to know how you win, that's how you do it. There's casualties. And so they realized, they knew who I was, what I did. So we ended up, they just quietly went away after about 6 months because I wasn't letting them up for a while. Anyway, long story short, that code was written to withstand attack. And so if we got locked into the law in the code, it's too firm, too brittle. So you need something more flexible. So that's why, and there's different ways to write codes. So we put that in there, and if you look at it, it gives a lot of leeway to DNR, that department. And then, but what really counts is, what are you going to do with it? When are you going to start drilling? But we got to be ready for that fight, and so we can be, like Professor Pearl said, these cases that are settled seem to provide, and I can verify this, looking around for different settlements. If you want to get a good deal, you have to look at infrastructure projects. The days of getting cash on a water rise is long gone. Get cash into the deal, but not as much as it used to be. And final one of our attorneys just retired, David Mullen, and he was chief legal counsel to the United States Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, and he had to approve every single water agreement or water compact or a water any kind of final settlement, whatever the judge, lawyers wanted to call it, had to be approved by David Mullen before it went to the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs for vote and to the full Senate. So David was invaluable during that time, but he started pulling back and he retired. So we're set up to go forward on using that code, and yeah, it can be updated. That was several years ago, and it should be looked at. Yeah, and she says, her committee, they'll look at it, and we will update when necessary. We don't have, well, I can maybe get David to do a little work, but Chelsea, that's where it is. It's built to where it looks like there's too much leeway, it's kind of vague in certain parts. Is there a section that you have a question about?
Well, since it's reserved, we can't see it.
Well, there is a water law.
There's a water law that's in Osage law, and they're delegating it to, my understanding, I'm just me, but from my understanding.
Talking to the microphone, please.
From my understanding, that delegates it to the Department of Natural Resources, who writes the regulations. That department is under executive, so I can see, and because it's under executive, those aren't published in our code, because it's not technically Osage law. They're just writing regulations. So I feel like there is a difference of, hey, I want to know what our Osage Nation regulations are. What is our regulations on our minerals? What is our regulations on our water? Where do I go as an Osage citizen and as a community member? where do I go to see that, to look at those regulations?
I want to hand it off.
And they're supposed to be published, but, and this was something that I was speaking with Congresswoman Whitehorn about, of like, we have our editorial board, we have all these boards and commissions that are in charge of writing these types of things, but they're not in a clearinghouse for somebody that wants to do the work, that wants to do the research, to say, I want to know what my rights are as a landowner. I want to know what's going on within the Osage Nation. And it's kind of hard right now for Osage tribal members to navigate that system. So.
Right. So what I do want to say is it is required in the Natural Resources Statute for the regulations to be published on DNR, which is what it was called, or ENR, now Department of Natural Resources. It's required to be published on their website. And I listened to what Cherise had to say, Ms. Lookout had to say, and I agree with her, and I've often thought that because I'm a person that works in our law too, and I have to resource our laws just like she does through the website, and it's very difficult. So I'm thinking about passing some statute where I've noticed that the other tribal nations have their laws and regulations consolidated, maybe under the Attorney General's office, where that's the one place you can go and you can see all the regulation and code. So,
yeah. And publish means, it could mean just put something on a wall, right? Yeah, so I think what you're saying is you want that rewritten, that section. Piece of cake, because if I'm not the lawyer around here, we have lawyers that should be able to do this. Well, it's true. No, really, it's a simple fix, and I appreciate that. But you know, we had to replace the entire IT system. Remember that? It crashed, it terribly crashed. And Congress and I worked together. When we do that, amazing things can happen. Yes, and so we worked together, but that rebuild left off a lot of stuff. So, so we'll get to that, Cherise.
So, each one of these individuals I know deeply care about their communities, about the Osage Nation. I remember when the task force was created. I believe I was taking photos at your first meeting. So I know that you guys have a vested interest in our water and our natural resources. And I know I've heard stories about Johnny Kelley getting in the lake. I've heard that, and I know Mr. Tolson has been a very important figure within the city of Pawhuska for decades, actually, his whole family. So I know that, you know, we're all from these communities, we all care. I give you guys something from us. Just to say thank you for watching out for us. Well, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close the symposium. I just want to thank everyone for attending and all those who are watching online. We just want to start the conversation of how to help our communities with this increasing water problem. And with that, I wish everyone safe travels and